right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from today. Welcome to our Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. And I really stress that good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, because we really do have quite a stretch today from Canada to Hong Kong to Hawaii, and maybe even a few places in between joining us in this live event. So this is going to be a great event because we have Erden Eruc joining us today. He is on a mission to become the first ever to row across the Pacific Ocean north of the equator. So he left California and he's making his way to Hong Kong. And of course, he's not just doing that for the sake of doing it. Along the way, he's connecting with classrooms as well as raising awareness about ocean plastics and the serious global issue that we are facing with them. So he's partnered with an NGO, Ocean Recovery Alliance, and we're going to meet Doug Woodring from the Alliance shortly. He's going to talk to us a little bit about the amazing education program that they are creating. But we're going to start with Erden in Hawaii. So after 80 days and 2,646 miles rowing on the Pacific, he has arrived in Waikiki, Hawaii. Let's bring him in right now. Erden, how are we doing today?
I am doing well. You can hear me well, I hope.
We can hear you. We see you. We see the blue skies. We see the palm trees. So it's looking not too bad.
And you see a yellow boat?
We see a yellow boat. You're home away from home.
That's right. That's my oasis on the ocean. I am attached to it for survival and for athletic accomplishment at the same time.
All right. Well, Erden, why don't we take a little show and tell with a boat? Tell us a little bit about the journey so far, and then we'll talk a little education.
Sounds good. I left from Crescent City on June 22nd. Then I worked my way. I was forced to work my way close to California shores. Then eventually I broke free and worked my way toward Hawaii. It took me 80 days of challenging rowing to get here. It was a bit tougher than I had imagined. This summer, the jet stream, the mid-latitude jet stream, formed a bit far north and a bit far west, and that created northwesterly winds and eventually northerly winds, which just did not help me. And it was a lot of fighting. This boat is a big boat. It is designed for two people, and I am, let me do this. I am rowing it by myself. It has solar panels on the cabin top and on the sides, custom panels. I have a tarp over it right now to keep the piercing sun off of it. I can work under that, and more solar panels in the front. You can see 3 rowing stations on this. It's designed for 2. Both are rowing. It's the fore and aft position they use. I tend to use more the aft position if I have following seas. If I have cross seas, I use this one so that I can change the trim of the vessel. If I sit farther back, the back of the vessel squats down and the bow gets lighter, and she tends to run downwind a bit better. It has 2 hatches. This hatch in the back is to access the rudder if I need to. It's always closed while I'm at sea. The front hatch is over here. That's my cabin access. The cabin feels like a 2-person tent. It's quite spacious. And I have a rail right there under the tarp. I'm going to go to the boat right now and show the rail and my rowing station. And that is where I spend a lot of my time. And this is the boat. There's my rowing seat. There's the cabin hatch, and there's the rail to row. It's a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess right now because I'm working on the boat, fixing a few things, improving a few things. So it's been busy times before I get going again. It needs to be shipshape. I'm hoping to relaunch October 5th. That's the target date right now.
All right. So, Erden, I know along the way that you are, there's curriculum being developed around ocean plastics. We want to raise awareness about that issue. Have
Yes.
you been noticing plastics in the water? Anything standing out to you on your journey so far?
The boat is quite low to the water, and my peripheral vision is about 50 meters out radius, so I have view over limited strip of the ocean. What I do notice readily are styrofoam pieces. Styrofoam is very light, very air, it floats high since it's light, and it stands out as a white piece. So if I see styrofoam cups, styrofoam packing material, they are readily visible. Anything else tends to lay low right on the water surface, and I get glare and reflection, and they tend to pass unnoticed often. I notice them at the very last moment as they pass by, for example. So that's been my experience. I necessarily have to follow the periphery of the Great Pacific Gyre to be able to make progress. Both currents and winds tend to be on the periphery of this, and the garbage collects in the center of it where the currents and the winds tend to stall. So that's where it collects. Great Pacific Garbage Patch is farther in to the center of the Pacific Gyre. So I follow the periphery to get to Hawaii, and then from here on, I'm going to stay pretty much at 2022 north latitudes in that band, all the way across to Luzon Strait to enter the South China Sea. What I will see along the way, time will tell.
All right. And so, you're in Hawaii right now, but we know you're not relaxing with your feet up. You're getting ready for the next leg of what's going to be an incredible journey. When do you think you'll be, or what's the hope to be back out on the water? I know with an expedition, nothing ever really goes as planned. You have to be flexible.
I have a meeting on October 4th with the University of Hawaii researchers that are doing drift buoy modeling, and they have tweaked their model to simulate my boat on the water. They're going to try to route me with the currents and winds. So I have a final meeting with them October 4th, and I penciled in October 5th as my launch date pending weather. So that's the plan right now.
All right.
I'm out of here.
All right, exciting stuff. I'm going to bring in Doug Woodring right now from Ocean Recovery Alliance. He is joining us from Hong Kong, and he's going to talk a little bit about the incredible education material that's being brought together and all of the great updates. So I'm going to bring Doug in with us now. Hey, Doug, how you doing?
Hi, Joe. Hi, Erden. How are you?
Good, good. Doug, great education material coming together. I've got a few links ready to share on my screen, but why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're cooking up?
Yeah, so my colleague Ryan Chung, who some of you know from Renaissance College, we spoke with you last week. He's really the mastermind behind this, but we call in Erden's trip the westbound rower because he's rowing from east to west, the US to Asia. And every week on Westbound Wednesdays, we put out some pretty cool education which you might not find in schools. Everything that Erden will see, touch, and feel. How do you survive? How do you make water? How do you eat? What about the currents? What about the weather? How do you escape the storm? What if your boat flips over? What about the fish? What animals do you see? So there's really, of course, about plastic and the impacts of climate change and ocean currents, ocean temperature. There's really a lot of stuff here that's going to be coming out, and it has been coming out for 13 weeks. Erden's got another few months ahead of him. So we're going to have this weekly education coming out, and it's in 4 languages now: English, Chinese, Spanish, and Turkish. Erden is Turkish American. And so tell your friends all over the world, because we want people to be learning from Erden's experience. It's not very often that you get to follow someone across the entire ocean, 8,000 miles almost, and learn along the way. And I think this is one of the first expedition education programs that's been ongoing really during the full expedition, also in 4 languages. So tune in. This is the first live we've done with Hong Kong schools, but we want to have a lot more. So tell your friends and teachers about it.
That link is up there. Although if you search Westbound Rower as well on Google, it will come up. And then there's a beautiful, if you've never seen a story map before, story maps are beautiful interactive documents with media and links, and you can tell really immersive stories with them. And there's a great story map as well for the Westbound Rower that's coming together. So both those links have been shared. We'll share them again maybe towards the end after a little bit of Q&A action. But it's definitely worth spending some time with the resources. So, Erden, what do you think? Should we get a little Q&A action going with some of our classrooms?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, we've got 3 classrooms joining us live from Hong Kong today. I can see 6RM and 6TW are in the call with us right now. And then the 3rd class has shifted over to YouTube. They've sent in some comments already with Miss Fairweather. And in fact, there's already a question there from them. So let's get that first one in. They're wondering, how do you make sure that ships aren't going to hit you? Because you're not very big with some of those container ships.
Yes. The vessel has a white light that is lit at night, so they can see that and avoid it. A white light means avoid me. I am at anchor almost. If you are a small vessel as well, it's a white light. 7 meters or less is supposed to show just white light. I have a system called AIS, Automatic Information System, and that one tells them where I am, my coordinates, my speed, and my heading, and and my distance to them. Then I also see them on my chart plotter, and if their course crosses a 2-mile radius around my boat, then an alarm sounds inside, and I can pick up the radio and start talking to them on the VHF radio. So I also have an active radar target enhancer, which is a device that responds back at the same bandwidth when it receives a radar signal from a distant vessel. So then it puts me on their radar screen. So those devices, the AIS putting me on their chart plotter, the radar enhancer putting me on their radar screen, and the visual hint that I am there at night, the white light, gives me some degree of security. All vessels by law have to have a constant lookout at all times. And I am the only one that's breaking that rule when I sleep, for example. So I trust that they have their lookouts in place on the bridge.
All right. Well, I think you can be forgiven that, seeing as you're undertaking quite an incredible journey and you just can't be awake the entire time. So I think that's sleep is a good thing. Let's jump to another one of our live camera classes. Let's bring in 6TW here. Give me a big wave, 6TW, if you can hear us okay. There they are. All right, good to see ya. Let's get that microphone unmuted, and if you have a question or two for Erden, let's steal some of those.
I got 2 questions. What's your average speed? Like your normal speed when you're on the
boat? Would they type the question, please?
Oh, Erden, he's wondering, what's your speed? What's your average speed?
My average speed is 1.6 to 1.8 knots. That's 1 nautical mile per hour. 1.6 to 1.8. 1 knot is 1 nautical mile per hour. So it's quite slow. To convert from nautical miles to kilometers, you have to multiply it by about 1.8. So if you were to say 2 knots on average, that would be what 3.6 kilometers per hour kind of pace is what I'm keeping.
All right, excellent. Well, 60W, we're going to come back your way for another question. I'm going to check in with 6RM who are joining us. Let's bring them into the conversation. If you want to unmute your mic and give us a big wave, we'd love to steal a question. There they are. Let me switch the view here so we see them better. Hey, boys and girls, how are you?
Okay, we have a question from 6RM. Sonia, would you like to ask?
What inspired you?
Big voice.
What inspired you?
Yes.
Can you hear what inspired you to do your big journey?
Yes. So it's a long story. I'll try to make it short. In 1997, while working in an IT information technology software development lab, there was a map on the wall, and I kept tracing my finger across that, asking myself, what if could I go around the world across this map? And then eventually I bought my rowboat, a used rowboat from England, from the Ocean Rowing Society, and did my first row in 2006, solo from Canary Islands to Guadeloupe. I wanted to do a journey around the world by human power, and a friend had encouraged me to start this journey and not postpone it anymore. His name was Göran Kropp. He had bicycled from Sweden to Nepal in 1996 to climb Everest. He was famous. While we were rock climbing together in 2002 September, he fell and he died in a rock climbing accident. And that's when I decided that life is short. I have to do this. So I rode the Atlantic, and then I felt ready to take on my journey as Göran had envisioned. And 2007 to 2012, I went around the world by human power. And in his memory, I am climbing the highest summit on each continent except Antarctica. In 2003, I bicycled up to Alaska to climb Mount McKinley. I towed my climbing gear just like he had to Everest and walked the length of the Kahiltna Glacier and summited in 29th of May 2003. Then along the route, along the way on my circumnavigation in Australia, I climbed Kosciuszko, and in Africa, I climbed Kilimanjaro. So I now have Everest, Elbrus, and Aconcagua remaining to go. My goal is to reach Everest right now. If I can get to Asia, Hong Kong, preferably, failing that to Vietnam, then from there overland, I will go to foothills of Everest, climb it, carry on to Elbrus, keep going. So that's my journey. That's the cause. And of course, along the way, we want to make sure that we can connect with classrooms, create educational value, and do educational projects. I am the president of a nonprofit called Around and Over. It's a 501c3 organization that is based out of Seattle. We do educational projects. We connect with classrooms. We build classrooms in needy communities. Projects, as we go along, we manage.
All right. Well, no small undertaking, because many would say, I just made it from California to Hong Kong, but to know that potentially Everest is looming there as well, it is quite an amazing journey that you're undertaking. And a comment just coming online, just saying, your friend would be so proud of you for the challenges you're taking and spreading those messages around the world. So Hillian is joining us from For a Cleaner Ocean, Hong Kong. And is wondering, what's your mental state been like over the last 80 days? Up and down? How's it going?
When the boat goes the way I like, the way I want, then I am a very happy person. And if it doesn't, then I am stressed, anxious, wondering what the outcome will be. So it's a, back and forth. It's one day at a time sort of mentality that I keep out there. I don't frustrate myself too terribly, but when it is required that I have to put in the physical effort, then I have to steel myself to put in the hours and stay out there and make sure that the boat does go in the direction that I want. So when the oceans help me, then I can take a break and rest and relax a bit more, do laundry, recover, because I know that at some point I'm going to have to put in the extra hours.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring Doug back into the conversation here for a moment because he's going to talk about these really great pick-me-up bags here. Doug, these are amazing bags created from recycled material. Tell us a little bit about them and how students could get their own.
Right. So this is a Westbound Rower pick-me-up bag, and this is made from old kite material. And Hillian, who just asked the question, Kite Surf for a Cleaner Ocean is her group. She was the first ever kite surf from Hong Kong to Macau to raise money to actually help us to establish the design of these bags. And so now we've taken her old kites and the kites from the Kite Surfing Association and made these cool pick-me-up bags which go on your hip. So when you walk on the beach or in the park or on the mountain, most people don't pick up trash because they have nowhere to put it. But if you put it on the side of your hip, now you have a place to carry it. You can feel proud. You can show your friends that, hey, I'm doing the right thing. Just be proud, pick it up. And so if you send in answers to a question at the end of this session to Joe or myself or Ryan, basically says, what did you learn from Erden in this talk? What inspired you? Or what are you going to do next to help save the ocean or environment? Could be short term, tomorrow, could be medium term in 2 months, could be in 10 years. What's your dream? How can you help? And that's what we want to know. And the best sort of answer from each session we do, we'll get one of these pick-me-up bags. Pretty cool stuff.
Nice.
Very, very cool. And I will send those questions, those prompts to the 3 classes after the event today. And they're great bags. I've got a collection here to share with North American classrooms. And then I know Doug's got a collection on his end as well for classrooms in that area of the world. Very exciting.
Hand-sewed in Hong Kong. So it's a pretty cool local project. Thanks, Hill, for the help too, and all the kite surfers. We're all doing our part as athletes to protect the ocean. Ryan is a big paddler. We all use the ocean through sports, and Erden is at the extreme end, obviously, of a huge challenge, but it's all to bring awareness on ocean protection and things.
Absolutely. Another question here just in the chat from our third class that's hanging out with us, Miss Fairweather's group. They're wondering how you take care of your health when you're on the ocean. Do you have a special first aid kit? How do you keep yourself healthy?
Once I leave shore, after about 2 to 3 weeks, if I don't have any communicable diseases show up and manifest themselves, then there is no way for diseases to reach me. And I have to be conscious of hygiene. So I cannot have skin problems that go awry, get infected. I have to be careful with bird poop on deck, that I can't step into it and carry it in and somehow ingest it perhaps. Oh, those are the ways, vectors of bacteria and microbes that can arrive into my metabolism and turn me ill. I do have a medical kit. It's called a personal medical kit, PMK, issued by World Clinic, and they are one of my sponsors. I have access to their experts and doctors around the clock, 24/7. If I have a problem, I can call them, and then they can instruct me which medication to use from that medical kit and what to do, and they would be in communication with me until I reach proper medical facilities. So they are a remote concierge service for healthcare, and that's the backup plan that I have in case I cannot resolve the medical issue that I have at sea.
All right, great question. Great questions coming from Miss Fairweather's group online. Let's visit 6TW again and see if they have another question for us.
Do you ever feel to stop the adventure if no one keeps
What is it? Do you ever feel like stopping your adventure? But if you don't, then what keeps you going? Did you get that?
Nope.
Did you get that, Erden? Do you ever feel like stopping? And if not, what keeps you going?
I heard. Would you repeat that, please?
Yeah, they're wondering, do you ever feel like giving up, like stopping? And if not, what keeps you going?
Well, it is very difficult to stop in the middle of the ocean. If I have any such temptations, at some point I need to tell myself to grow up and not be a chicken and keep going. I have to motivate myself. I need to make sure that I remember why I launched, and I need to set short-term goals. So what makes a long journey possible is to focus on the day's goal, short-term goals, instead of the very end. So it's not the destination that I am going for. It is the every day's effort that I plan, and I put a target waypoint for myself 30, 40 miles away, and I try to strive to get to that. I have an update to write for my blog. I have information to provide to classrooms or to my team. So I have tasks assigned to myself that keep me busy, that establish a routine, that give me something to do, rather than just lose all purpose out there. It is not healthy for me to lose sight of my goals and the process. So it's the process that gets me across. It is the journey that counts. It's not the destination, really. The destination gives me the general path to follow, and during the journey, every day, living every day fully, I then add those days end to end, and that gets me to my destination. If I just try to look at the 2,000 miles, when I leave from Waikiki, I will have about 5,500 nautical miles to reach Hong Kong. If I look at 5,500 miles every day, it's like watching a tree grow. That is not healthy. So I would have to look at every day, 30 miles, 40 miles, and just set those goals, intermediate goals, short-term goals, accomplish them. And each time I reach a goal like that, at the end of the day, I taste success. And day after day, if I have a glimpse of success, then that becomes a habit. That becomes a need. I then have latched onto success. That's my attitude. I am successful. I am making this happen. But if I look at 5,500 miles and 2 weeks later, it is still over 5,000 miles, I could get discouraged. So I suggest that along with long-term goals, you set yourselves short-term goals and make sure that you pick those achievable, manageable goals to make success a habit.
All right, that's great advice. Big goals are amazing and they're great, and we should always have them. But those smaller ones to get you there, it's very healthy. So that's great advice for the classrooms that we do have tuning in live with us today. I'm gonna pop 6RM back in and see if they have another question for us.
We've got loads of questions.
Excellent.
Erden, you can ask yours.
How do you keep cool on the boat?
Oh.
How do I keep food on the boat?
How do you keep cool
Did you say
when you're? How do you keep the right temperature cool?
I can't keep cool It is right now tropical setting in Hawaii. The sun is very bright during the day, piercingly hot. And the only solution that I have is to cover up. So I wear a large brim hat and I wear long sleeve shirts. And typically I have just in underwear. My legs are bare. I can apply some sunscreen on my legs. That's really my attire at sea in the summer months and when it is really hot. I cannot cool down. It's just impossible. In the evenings, it becomes more tolerable, and that's when I actually sleep. So my sleep time is at night when it's dark, when the cabin is cooler. Otherwise, it feels like a sauna.
All right. No tiny air conditioner crammed in the cabin? Nothing?
Yeah, that'd be cheating, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, we have.
I suffer.
All right. Well, we have a couple minutes, so I'd love to take a few more questions from our classes. So either of our classes, 6TW, 6RM, I know 6JF is online as well with Miss Fairweather. If you want to give me a wave, I'm going to come back to your class because I think we can do a lightning round and squeeze in one more question from each group. And I think I see someone front and center already, so I'm going to bring them back in.
Has your boat ever flipped over when you're in it? And if it has, what did you do to, what was the solution?
My boat is a self-righting, purpose-designed vessel. It has a ballast below my rowing station. That's water ballast that is weighing it down. All my supplies are below deck. The deck is covered, so it will not fill and sink. Also, the cabin has a huge air volume as long as the cabin is not flooded and I keep the hatches closed. That has buoyancy. So when it goes sideways, it has a tendency to come right side up very violently. She doesn't like to be on her side at all. It has gone over to about 145 degrees or so, but not 360. When it went over, it came right back right side up again. One evening back in 2008, when I was rowing on the Pacific again, it flipped and threw me at the ceiling, and then I came back down on the mattress when she righted. Then I tied myself down by the waist and by the shoulders. I have anchor points inside the cabin, 4 of them, to keep myself on the mattress. That also makes sure that if she does flip, I don't end up sitting on the ceiling with the boat upside down and becoming ballast to keep her from restoring itself. So what I need to do is stay on the mattress, keep the weight down so that she has a tendency to restore herself more readily. So that's really what you do. If you're in the cabin and the seas are violent, that happens when this swells and wind waves are crossing over each other. They're not in parallel. It's not orderly seas. When you have cross seas like that, then the movement of the waves become up and down. They turn into what we call boxing seas. And a boxing sea, if it pops one side of the boat, then it could flip it. And in that case, sort of a situation, I need to have made sure that the deck is clear of anything that could wash out the sea. So everything needs to be tied down and stashed away. And I need to be in the cabin door sealed, myself tied to a mattress. And that's how we deal with that.
Okay. I think I saw someone up at the camera in 6TW. So let's bring them back in and see if there's one more question for us. Here comes someone.
What happened if you completely ran out of food?
What happens if what?
If you run out of food.
If I run out of food, I have extra food. Now that I stopped at Hawaii, I am actually stocking on extra food. And the boat is designed for 2 people, remember? And that means that I have the food for the other guy as well that I can eat. That extends my range. And failing all of that, there's always the possibility that I could hail a passing vessel and beg for some supplies. But I don't count on that.
All right. We hope it doesn't come to that. Miss Fairweather's class is thinking about food as well, because they've asked, what's your favorite snack while rowing, while out on the boat?
My favorite snack are the nuts, dry roasted, unsalted nuts that I have. And I can have those with dried fruits, figs and plums and apricots and such. Those pass as fresh fruit. And my main staple are freeze-dried foods. They come in pouches. All I have to do is boil some water with a handheld stove and 1 liter of water into the pouch. 20 minutes later, I have my dinner. So that's the main staple. Everything else is either dried nuts and roasted nuts and raisins and such, and also powdered drinks, protein mixes, hydration mixes that I can make some water from the sea. I have a desalination unit that I run using the electrical charge from my batteries, and those batteries get recharged using solar panels that you saw earlier on the vessel. So I make water from the salt water to drink, to rinse my clothes, to rinse myself, to clean up, to drink, to restore all these to restore these those foods, to make them edible, and also these powdered drinks to make them prepare them as well. So that's really how my nutrition goes. I do have a 1 a day pill to take as well, just in case I have a gap in my nutrition.
All right. Well, Erden, we're going to do one more question here. And this, I bet you this is on the mind of all the classrooms, and that's the marine life. What marine life has kept you company along the way?
When I am out in waters where there is no flying fish, there's little life that hangs out around me. Once the flying fish appear in the warmer currents, then all the birds and the fish like dorados, mahi-mahi, that feed on those flying fish show up as well. They hang out together. It's a big ecosystem. And as I am making progress, a school of fish accompanies me. Smaller fish attract bigger fish, and dorados come to my navigation light at night. I can see them like ghosts, gray ghosts in the water, and we make progress together. It's the instinct of the fish to follow in the shade of a larger fish. They seem to see better that way, and they also get morsels of food from their mouth when they feed, or from behind them. So that's the behavior of the smaller fish. So they think I'm a big fish. They follow me. When I get near the islands, near Hawaii, I started seeing boobies, red-footed boobies, and masked boobies. These are big birds that make a mess on deck when they land. They poop a lot. I have to clean the deck all the time when they come. And then within 80 miles or so of land, then the naughty terns show up. They are blackish brown birds with a shade of silver all over their heads. Sooty terns are everywhere. White terns are also. Storm petrels were visible about a third of the way from California, and then they sort of disappeared. I did see albatross near the California shores. I did not spot any whales. They do come up the California shores to feed on the upwelling nutrition that is found near shore. Once I left California shores, I did not see any whales.
All right. Well, I want to start off with a shout out to the crew who joined us on YouTube today. Thank you for sending in so many great questions for us, particularly Miss Fairweather's crew with a great group of questions, and then Hillian for joining us as well in creating those great pick-me-up bags. I want to give a huge shout out to the other two classrooms who joined us on camera today, 6TW and 6RM, who we're hanging out with. Let's see, Miss Morgan, and looks like Miss Weir as well. So that was great. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm going to bring Doug back in here for just a second here. Doug, thank you for joining us today. Thanks for sharing the education side of things and the great resources you're creating along with Ryan. I'm going to post those links one more time. But again, if you search Westbound Rower on Google, those should come up for you, or really any search engine. And then the story map, you definitely have to check out the story map. It's a beautiful story map with some great media that can really help you learn a little bit more about not only plastics, but the journey that Erden is undertaking right now. So Erden, thank you so much for joining us live again today, giving us a little tour of your home away from home, which it sounds like early October. It's back to the grind, rowing your way towards Hong Kong.
Yes, that's the plan.
So we plan to do these talks every 2 to 3 weeks with Erden on his satellite phone. We won't get his video and his big smiling face, but we will get to hear what's happening. And so for schools who want to keep in touch and get back on live calls every now and again, we'll be having those.
Would you put the education link up once more?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
There it is.
Got it.
And Erden, say hi to Nikolai and Jan at the University of Hawaii. We'll get them on one of our calls also with the schools. They're the current flow scientists that are good friends of ours. We worked with them for 10 years on different projects, and they're going to help Erden basically slingshot between the Philippines and Taiwan through the currents right into Hong Kong next March. So hopefully some of you might get to see him row into the harbor, and we can go see his boat once he gets here.
All right, that sounds great. We're looking forward to some calls. Now, like Doug said, we won't get to see your happy face out on the boat, but we'll get to hear you, which will be really cool. And then hopefully we'll have some special guests as well who can talk a little bit about some of the issues you might be facing. So that's really cool. I want to bring our two classrooms back in. If they want to give a big wave, a big goodbye and thank you before we sign off today. There they are. All right. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us today. And then Miss Fairweather's class is wishing you great wins for your journey towards Hong Kong.
May the winds be my...
All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Great to have such a stretch today from Canada to Hong Kong to Hawaii. Great connection. Looking forward to more down the line. And I will send the classrooms the instructions for a shot at winning some of those great pick-me-up bags. Doug, great to see you as always. Thank you so much. And Erden, great to see you as well. And we can't wait for our next connection.
Thank you.
Excellent.
All right.
Good luck,
Thanks,
Erden.
everyone.
Thank you, Doug.
Speak to you soon.